The earth was cloaked in a pristine layer of snow, creating a vision of icy, untouched stillness. It was January, and the frozen expanse of Alaska promised an unforgettable vacation. My family, Dad, Mom, my younger sister Kyle, and I, chose to spend a week in an isolated cabin nestled deep within the wilderness. The allure of unspoiled nature, roaring fires, and crisp, fresh air was irresistible. We arrived late at night, headlights cutting through the swirling snowflakes as we pulled up to the modest yet inviting cabin. Icicles clung to the eaves, and the air was biting cold. Exhausted from the long drive, we unloaded our things, lit a fire, and huddled around its comforting warmth. The crackling flames painted flickering shadows on the wooden walls, and though the forest outside pressed close and silent, the cabin felt safe and cozy. The following morning greeted us with dazzling sunlight bouncing off the snow, almost too bright to look at. After breakfast, we ventured out to explore, embarking on a hike through the towering evergreens. The trees stretched endlessly upward, their branches burdened with snow. The icy air stung our faces, but the beauty of the forest made it worthwhile. Midway through our hike, we stumbled across an old cabin in a clearing. Its roof sagged under the weight of the snow, and the windows were obscured by grime. A chill ran down my spine as I noticed the eerie stillness surrounding it. Dad knocked on the door, but no one answered. Peering through the frosted windows, he declared it abandoned, but something about the place felt unsettling, as though it didn't belong to the vibrant world around it. That evening, as the Alaskan twilight cast the snow in soft hues of pink and purple, we returned to our cabin. After dinner, we sipped warm drinks and chatted by the fire. Drawn to the serene view of snow falling silently outside, I stepped onto the porch. The cold was sharp and invigorating. That's when I saw him, a shadowy figure among the trees, barely visible against the storm. Calling for Dad, I pointed out the figure. He stepped out, shielding his eyes from the storm. When the man stumbled closer, it was clear he was in distress. His black coat was drenched, frost clung to his beard, and his gaunt face betrayed exhaustion. We ushered him inside, seating him by the fire as Mom made him tea. The man introduced himself as Daniel. He had come to the area to spend time alone in a nearby cabin but had gotten lost during a hike. He recounted an eerie tale of being followed by figures in the woods, silent, distant shapes that appeared as shadows in the storm. The next morning, we helped Daniel find his cabin. Outside, the snow lay pristine except for a trail of footprints leading to our porch. Oddly, another set of tracks circled the cabin, weaving through the trees like a predator stalking its prey. We located Daniel's cabin, which, though similar to the abandoned one we'd found earlier, bore signs of recent habitation. He thanked us profusely, and we left him to settle back in. That night, our last in the cabin, we gathered around the fire one final time. After heading to bed, I was just drifting to sleep when I heard it, a soft, deliberate knock at the front door. My heart raced. Soon, the entire family was in the living room, whispering urgently. The knocking grew louder and more insistent, accompanied by faint whispers too soft to discern. Dad, ever practical, shouted a warning and fired 2 shots into the night. The knocking stopped, but the whispers persisted, closer than before. At dawn, we packed and left, the oppressive weight of the snow lifting only as the cabin disappeared from view. As we drove away, I looked back one last time, half expecting to see shadowy figures among the trees. But there was only the snow, falling in silence. The year's end is always a whirlwind for anyone running a business, but for someone managing a company that manufactures and sells products on Amazon, it's pure chaos. With countless employees to manage and a never-ending list of tasks to complete, December was a blur of activity. Normally, I'd be home by 5 p.m., but on December 31st, I found myself still at the office, closing the books for the year. By the time I locked up and stepped outside, it was past 1 a.m. The snowstorm that had been threatening all evening had escalated into a blizzard. The streets were eerily empty, with only a few cars creeping cautiously through the storm. My headlights barely pierced the dense snowflakes as I navigated the slippery roads. That's when I spotted him, a man lying motionless at the edge of the road, barely visible in the snow. I hesitated. Stopping in the middle of a storm to help a stranger was risky, it could even be a trap. But leaving him there in those conditions wasn't an option. He wouldn't survive the night. I pulled over, rushing to his side. His face was pale, his lips a bluish hue, and his thin, tattered clothes were no match for the biting cold. Struggling to lift him into my car, I cranked up the heat and sped toward the nearest hospital. At the hospital, the doctors said he was severely hypothermic and malnourished but would recover with treatment. I visited him daily, curious about his story. When he finally regained his strength, he told me his name was Ollie. His voice trembled as he recounted losing his young son 2 years ago. The grief had destroyed his family and cost him his job, leaving him homeless. He explained how despair had driven him to let the storm take him. "But you saved me," he said, tears in his eyes. His words lingered with me. I lived alone in a large house, and the thought of offering him a fresh start crossed my mind. After some encouragement, he agreed to stay with me for a while. Over time, having Ollie around felt natural. He was quiet, kept the house clean, and was visibly grateful. We talked often, and I discovered an intelligent, kind man beneath the hardships he'd endured. He wanted to rebuild his life, and I wanted to help. One snowy evening, I came home after a long day at work to find the front door wide open. My heart dropped. Rushing inside, I found the house eerily quiet. Nothing seemed out of place, but I feared the worst. Before I could call Ollie, a knock startled me. Opening the door, I found him standing there, breathless and shaken. Ollie explained he had heard noises downstairs while I was away. Investigating quietly, he spotted 2 masked men ransacking the living room. Remembering I kept a gun in the cabinet, he grabbed it and confronted them. His shout scared them off, and he chased them into the night, but they escaped in a van. The thought of a break-in was terrifying, but Ollie's bravery reassured me. He had proven himself trustworthy and courageous. The next day, I offered him a job at my company. At first, he was hesitant, but I insisted it was a chance to rebuild his life. Ollie started small, assisting with inventory and deliveries. But within a year, his hard work and natural leadership skills saw him rise to a managerial position. He handled his team with care and precision, earning everyone's respect. That snowy New Year's Eve had changed both our lives. For Ollie, it was a second chance. For me, it was a profound lesson in compassion and the unexpected rewards of helping someone in need. Now, every New Year's Eve, we celebrate together, a reminder of how far we've come. I always thought winter was tranquil, a kind of quiet that doesn't exist in summer when everything is alive and buzzing. Snow has a way of muffling sound, making the world soft and still. That's why I agreed to house sit for my uncle in the mountains. It was supposed to be peaceful. It wasn't. The storm began just as the sun dipped behind the peaks. At first, it was pleasant, gentle flakes floating down lazily, settling over the landscape like a painter's brushstroke. I stood by the window with a steaming cup of coffee, marveling at the pristine whiteness outside. Everything seemed perfect, untouched. By evening, the wind picked up, turning the snow into a fierce assault on the windows. The once gentle flakes now slammed against the glass in angry bursts. The sound of the wind howling through the cabin's old wooden frame made the small space feel even smaller, almost suffocating. My uncle's cabin was quaint, he called it cozy, though it felt more like a cluttered relic of another era. Bookshelves lined the walls, filled with worn paperbacks and strange trinkets, wooden carvings, rusty tools, and jars containing who knows what. I lit the fireplace, its crackling flames providing some comfort, even though Uncle Greg had warned me not to rely on it too much. By 8 p.m., the storm was at full force. The windows rattled in their frames, and the wind screamed like a living creature. The power flickered once, twice, and then failed altogether, plunging the cabin into darkness. The fire was now my only source of light, its flickering glow casting eerie shapes on the walls. That's when I heard it, a sound so faint I thought it was just the wind at first. But then it came again, clearer this time. A voice. It was low and weak, cutting through the storm like a blade. "Help me." I froze. The voice was coming from outside. Logic told me to stay put, the storm was brutal, and going out into it was a death sentence. But the desperation in that voice made it impossible to ignore. Grabbing a flashlight, I bundled up in my coat and boots, steeling myself before stepping into the chaos. The storm hit me like a wall, the wind nearly knocking me off my feet. Snow whipped around me in a blinding frenzy, making it hard to see beyond a few feet. "Hello!" I shouted, my voice swallowed by the storm. Then, faintly, I heard it again. "Over here." The voice led me into the woods behind the cabin. The trees loomed like dark sentinels, their branches heavy with snow. My flashlight cut through the darkness, revealing nothing but more trees and falling snow. "Where are you?" I yelled, my voice shaking. Suddenly, the ground beneath me gave way, and I tumbled down a steep slope hidden by the snow. I landed hard, the cold seeping into my bones as I gasped for breath. When I sat up, I saw it, a figure crouched in the snow. It wasn't human. Its limbs were unnaturally long and spindly, its pale skin stretched taut. It turned toward me, its movements jerky, like a broken puppet. Its face was grotesque, distorted, with oversized black eyes and a gaping mouth full of jagged teeth. "Help me," it said, its voice now loud and clear. Panic overtook me as it crawled toward me on all fours, its movements spider-like. I scrambled backward, grabbing at the snow until my hand closed around a rock. I swung it with all my strength, hitting the creature. It let out a piercing shriek, recoiling long enough for me to escape. I ran, blind and desperate, the storm swallowing everything around me. Somehow, I made it back to the cabin, slamming the door shut and barricading it with a chair. My heart pounded as I stared at the door, half expecting it to burst open. But nothing came. Morning brought calm and sunlight, but the fear lingered. When I stepped outside, the snow was pristine, untouched, no footprints, no sign of struggle. It was as though nothing had happened. One winter afternoon, my friends and I headed out to a massive golf course just down the street to sled on its sprawling hills. These hills were part of a few fairways far removed from the main road, making it the perfect secluded spot for an afternoon of fun. We spent hours sledding and snowboarding, laughing as we raced down the slopes, the soft snowfall adding to the winter magic. By the time we decided to leave, darkness had already fallen, and the light snow that had made the day so picturesque had turned into something far more intense. It became a sudden snowstorm, the kind that hits hard and fast, transforming everything into a white, disorienting blur. Thick snowflakes pelted us relentlessly, quickly covering the ground and swallowing all traces of our sledding tracks. As we began walking back, it became clear how lost we were. The snowstorm erased all familiar landmarks, leaving us wandering in a white void. The cold gnawed at our exposed skin, and the wind made it hard to think clearly. We had no sense of direction and were exhausted from trudging through the thick snow. Eventually, we decided to rest under a massive pine tree. The tree's branches were heavy with snow, forming a canopy that shielded us from the worst of the storm. We huddled together, debating whether to wait for the snow to stop or press on. The cold seeped into our bones, and every breath felt like ice filling our lungs. Realizing how dangerous stopping was, we forced ourselves to keep moving. Every step felt like wading through deep water, the snow piled high and unyielding. We decided to abandon our sleds, leaving them behind as they only slowed us down. Each pause to catch our breath brought biting wind and a creeping numbness. Hours seemed to pass as we wandered aimlessly through the storm. It felt like we were going in circles, lost in an endless expanse of trees and snow. I kept hoping to see something, anything, that would guide us, but the storm swallowed everything. Finally, a miracle, faint streetlights appeared in the distance, barely visible through the storm. We staggered toward them, each step a struggle. When we reached the partially plowed road, it was like finding an oasis in the desert. Relief washed over us as we realized we were no longer lost. We stumbled the last few city blocks to my friend's house, soaked to the skin and shivering uncontrollably. By the time we made it inside, our clothes were frozen stiff. We spent the night wrapped in blankets by the fire, trying to thaw out. One of my friends even ended up with frostbite on his feet. Looking back the next day, we realized how close we'd come to real danger. If we had stayed under that tree and fallen asleep, we might not have survived. The snowstorm raged on for another day, and we could have been trapped much longer. It was a sobering experience, proof of how quickly an ordinary day can turn into a fight for survival.